Meantime, today, once again, Mitch McConnell is standing alone among Senate Republicans. He just voted no on Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s nomination to head HHS, his third time voting down a Trump nominee after opposing Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard. It is a stark contrast from the powerful Republican leader who once backed Trump, but who the Washington Post now describes as the unlikely and sometimes lonely face of Republican resistance. Brendan Buck is back with me. Mitch McConnell just put out a statement. It reminds folks that he did survive polio. And he wrote this, Brendan: I've watched vaccines save millions of lives from devastating diseases across America and around the world. I will not condone the relitigation of proven cures. Colleagues tell the Post that they respect McConnell, but that his no vote makes them sad. What's the dynamic that's at play here?
Well, look, I will start by saying I have a lot of respect for Mitch McConnell. I was around him a lot when I was in the Speaker's office. I think he is a very principled person who did a lot for the Republican Party over many years. The obvious difference is he's no longer leader. And there is, I think, something notable. I don't know this, I would be surprised if Mitch McConnell had ever voted against a nominee of his own party until this year. And it was always his job to make sure that his colleagues didn't vote against them. And so I imagine it's fair for a lot of them to look at McConnell and say, hey, you put a lot of pressure on me to take a lot of tough votes over the years. You valued discipline more than just about anything as leader. And why now do you have the freedom to sort of freelance? I think that's very reasonable. Of course, I think probably what is consistent here is that Mitch McConnell is of an era of Republican politics when none of these people he's voting against would have ever been nominated in the first place. So he's now put in a position of having to grapple with voting for people who, make crazy claims about vaccines or have very questionable credentials to lead our national security agencies. And we know that Mitch McConnell has long cared a lot about national security. And so it's not surprising necessarily that he was against those people, but it does leave you wondering, if you've been a longtime watcher of the Senate, why it's okay for him to be a bit of a freelancer here, where he would have never accepted that from some of his colleagues.
You know, Brendan, there are folks who argue that the old ways of Congress began to have a slow and painful death when John McCain died. I wonder if Mitch McConnell's kind of quiet opposition, he's been apparently going to members, expressing to them why he would vote no, and also the low fanfare surrounding it is sort of a last gasp for whatever that old era of politics represented.
Yeah, I think that's right. And look, Mitch McConnell also is, I don't know if he's announced this, is probably unlikely to run for re-election again. And so he doesn't ever have to really face voters. And that's an obvious difference from him and a lot of his colleagues who, I don't think this is a secret. There's a lot of Republicans in Congress who still aren't all that warm on Donald Trump, but they've been, put in this position because their voters love him. And Mitch McConnell doesn't have that pressure that so many of the other folks there do. So he's going to, I guess, perhaps wave the flag of traditional Republicanism, but his colleagues know that he alone isn't going to take anyone down. And so he's got that space, that margin they have in the Senate. If he wants to be that voice, great, go do that, sir. We appreciate what you've done for us, just as long as you don't mess up our agenda. And I think at the end of the day, McConnell is going to be voting for most of this agenda. But he does have this space now, and I think there's a lot of people who appreciate what he's saying, and there just aren't enough people there who are in the same position that he has that they can go along with him.
Politics in a nutshell. Brendan Buck, thank you so much. Good to see you again.